sit down to watch something that you're kind of excited for, only for you to realize like halfway through that it sucks and you want to switch it off? But since you've already invested so much time into it, you kind of feel obligated to yourself to see it through, so you don't feel like you completely wasted your time with this pointless movie. Because that happened to me quite recently when I sat down to watch The Bad Guys, A Very Bad Holiday. Emphasis on bad. I was pretty hyped coming into this movie. DreamWorks has, in my eyes at least, really improved the quality of their films in the 2020s. I really liked the Bad Guys film, and I really liked Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And even when their content was not so good, I felt like you could always depend on them when it comes to making these sort of wacky holiday specials. Seriously, their Christmas specials are usually, at the very least, decent. And so when you combine those two factors together, good recent quality of films and franchises with historically good holiday content, I was really hyped for this movie. I sat down very eagerly to watch it. And oh, you sweet summer child, if only I could save you from your fate. Because I'll be real with you, this was one of the most disappointing short films I've ever seen. Like, sometimes you go into something and you expect that it's going to be actively bad. So you're ready for it, you're prepared. And whilst you don't like it, you don't feel let down. Here, I went into it with high hopes. And so I got that lingering sense of betrayal because it was so genuinely mediocre. I'd have honestly preferred to watch something that was just openly and truly garbage. Something that knows it's garbage and doesn't try to pretend to not be garbage, rather than what we got here. This was just meh. Complete and utter meh. And it left me feeling ripped off. Ugh. So anyway, I guess I should give you a brief synopsis of the story so you know how it all went down. Because honestly, I do not think that you should have to sacrifice 25 minutes of your life on this thing. Anyway, the story follows the bad guys, but before the actual start of the film. So this is their criminal/villain era, the stuff you didn't see in the movie. So obviously they're going to be pretty keen to be doing some robbing and just be a general nuisance. And their grand holiday scheme is to commit a whole heap of robberies on Christmas Day, as the town's pretty much shut down. Security guards and whatnot don't go to work. All because of this big Christmas parade with the big balloon Santa. And so they have a low risk, high reward heist planned. The problem is though, as they speed through the city, they accidentally destroy the deeply beloved Santa balloon. And this makes the entire city so sad that they cancel Christmas, because what's the point without balloon Santa? And this leaves the bad guys with no Christmas heist. And so they try their best to restore the city's Christmas spirit with gifts, playing Christmas carols on the radio, even a snow machine. A snow machine that goes insane and accidentally freezes the city in a blizzard. Before the day is miraculously saved by the intervention of the bad guy's personal robotic Santa, which in turn becomes the new Christmas icon of the city. Okay, fair enough. Robo Santa would honestly be a pretty cool thing to see in real life, all things considered. But yeah, that's where the film ends. And if you think the plot sounds decent for a holiday special, I think you'd be right, because on paper, it does sound pretty decent. But it's in the execution where everything seems to go completely and utterly wrong, where the short just loses the audience completely. Nothing seems to go right. It fails in every respect. Because for starters, it doesn't even really look good. And you know what? Most DreamWorks shorts and shows, let's be real, they do not look good because they don't have the budget for them. And so the first thing that's going to happen with a low budget is the visuals are going to take a massive dive in terms of quality. But you can accept that for most of the time, because you have that understanding that whilst they don't have access to the good visuals, they're going to deliver in the other respects. But here, they don't. You can only accept bad visuals if everything else is genuinely good. But it wasn't genuinely good. Most of it was bad, and so you end up with something that has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. A film with no substance that looks terrible. A massive L for DreamWorks if you ask me. But hey, at least they got the original cast back to voice their characters, right? Right? Wrong. They did not get them back. And at first I thought, did they bring back the original actors? Are those the voices? Maybe they're just not doing great performances this time around. Maybe they're phoning it in. After all, it's just a Christmas special. They're here for the paycheck. But yeah, the more you listen to them speak, the less it sounded like the OG actors. And so a quick trip to Wikipedia revealed it is not the OG actors. But the problem is that there's this undercurrent of sounding familiar but not quite right. The only real way I can describe it is it's almost an uncanny valley type of vibe, but in terms of sound instead of visual. Like you knew who the character was supposed to be, but it was slightly off. As if they fed the original performance from the film into an AI, and the AI spat out the new lines that they wanted recorded. It didn't hit the mark. And so that got me very salty too. Because honestly, the voices are the most important part of an animation. Big call, but I think it's true. Or at least in terms of a spin-off animation, because let's be real, you're not really gonna tell if a sequel has different animators to the OG as long as they follow the style. But I think you will more obviously notice a different voice, let alone a different voice for every single character. I just don't understand. If you can get the original voices back for so many other holiday specials, why would you go the cheap dog route on this film and hire voice actors to do their best impression? It just makes it feel very second rate, bargain bin basement, straight to DVD trash. Although I guess it is straight to streaming, which is pretty much the new version of straight to DVD, so it does check out. And on top of that, I don't know whether it was the acting or the script, but it just felt like the characters had no chemistry with one another whatsoever. And this is such a weird phenomenon that I don't really know how to describe. Because when you think actors or characters having no chemistry, it's usually in a live action context, isn't it? But here, everything just feels off, stilted, stiff, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't work, and the gang doesn't feel like the gang that you meet in the film itself. It feels like a weird and lame imitation. And this is made even worse by the fact that almost none of the jokes actually land properly at all. I could honestly feel the crickets chirping in my head. I could imagine a tumbleweed rolling past in the wind, hear the proverbial pin drop. Just no laughs to be had, either from a character perspective or in any of the comedy segments. It was just straight up cringe from bell to bell. I think there was one joke I laughed at, and I use laugh generously here because it was more of a nose exhale. And that was when the cop, or whatever he was, talked about how Balloon Santa was like a father to him, which was just so absurd that it gave me the nose exhale. And that was it. Yeesh. And we'll stay on the script side of things now. Next up, we gotta mention that they chose the worst possible time for the film to be set, because it's before the original movie. So here, they're all jerks with no real redeeming qualities, and all of the fun developments and characters that you meet in the film are not present. So it's just generic bad guys doing generic bad guy stuff. A baffling story decision. I mean, I don't think anybody was ever clamoring for a look into their past, because the whole idea is that they were bland, they were unimaginative, and they were predictable villains. The governor literally says this about them in the movie itself, and they prove her right. Why would you want to explore that side of things even more? Wouldn't it have been a better idea perhaps to take a look at their first Christmas outside of prison after the film's ended, and they don't know how to have a good and normal Christmas, so they try to get into the Christmas spirit themselves with pretty mixed results? To me, that sounds a bit more fun than what we got, because in the end, all these negatives combine to craft a special that's painfully dull and painfully long. And that's a weird thing to say, I know, because the film is only 25 minutes long, but they make that 25 minutes feel like 2 hours, which I suppose is an achievement in and of itself. But it's not a film that many people want to see, as after all, it has terrible Rotten Tomato scores, 54% critical score, and a 35% audience score. Bad guys indeed. And so yeah, I guess we'll call it here. And so with all that being said, these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the special if you've seen it? Did you like it, hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.